Students, thank you very much for the time that you spent going through the video I made and making the comments that you did. I thought the comments were great. It seemed to me that you could really understand what I was saying. Students said, I'm really looking forward to part 2. So, okay, here's part 2. When we left off, we had the conversation in the room. Wingfoot's friend comes in and says, for a Redskin, and he says, well, after what I saw tonight, I'm proud to be a Redskin, meaning these white people are really, really terribly racist and intolerant. So I'm proud to be a Redskin because I'm not like those white people are. And by the end of the scene, we've decided to leave school after this great humiliation. He holds a picture of Corn Blossom. I'm going to go back to my people, even without finishing his education. So the next section begins with this cool intertitle, Enchanted Mesa, the inaccessible mountaintop where the Pueblos have lived for 1,000 years, safe from their traditional enemy, the Navajo. Now, there is such a place as Enchanted Mesa. This is how it looks on Google Earth, Enchanted Mesa. And if you take a look, isn't that a nice picture? But actually, the village that we see, the place where Corn Blossom's family lives, is a place called Coma Pueblo. And it's not so far from this. Here's Enchanted Mesa, 20 kilometers away, is a place called Coma Village. In Coma Village is a place that they refer to as Sky City. And when we go to the next frame here, this is not Enchanted Mesa, but this is actually Coma Pueblo. Coma Pueblo has been around for centuries. It is the oldest continually inhabited community in the United States. It's about 110 meters up from the ground. And Puebloans actually lived there at the time this movie was filmed. Now, you can see that the people are walking up a trail. Well, you can't see that trail from far away. So that was a hidden trail, but it was hidden from their enemies. The hidden hand-carved stairs you see were the only way up or down from Sky City for 1,000 years. Now, how did Paramount do filming at the top of that? Paramount Studios actually built a road to the top to film the scenes up there because the Technicolor cameras were too heavy to carry up the trail. So they needed a road to get it up there by car. By the way, that road is still in use today, and only 13 families live in Sky City now. This is early Technicolor, and early Technicolor doesn't show 3 colors. It shows only 2, red and green. So that's why the skies are green here. True Technicolor came in 1932, and it included blue. So that's why you see so much red and so much green. Corn Blossom's dress could very well have been blue, but it appears green in this film. And this is Pueblo Jim, not to be confused with the good Navajo Jim, who's a friend of Wingfoot. But this is Pueblo Jim, who you remember as the monitor for Wingfoot in his early school days. This actor, he was an African-American actor. Back to the story. Jim, why did you lie to me? Why did you tell me my mother was ill? And it was the only way to separate you from that Navajo. So here it's set up the conflict for the future romance. Corn Blossom loves Wingfoot and doesn't want to marry Pueblo Jim. Now Daddy jumps in and says, my daughter, you are not worth 4 wagons of corn. Your head is full of the white man's nonsense. How's that for an insult? You might want to ask your father, Dad, am I worth 4 wagons of corn? And see what he says. Corn Blossom is like, don't talk to me about what I'm worth. At least my head is not full of gin. And this is an interesting cultural point. Gin, gin, like gin tonic, right? Gin was a white man's drink. The Navajos would have corn whiskey. Every cultural group had their favorite alcohol. Mexicans drank tequila and beer. Indians drank whiskey. White people drank gin. Gin was considered to be the most dangerous of the alcohols that the white man ever consumed. All right, so anyway, Daddy says, look, you got 10 minutes to change out of those stupid white people's clothes. So now here we are back in Shilan, and times have changed. In 10 years, now the trading post has a gas station. So when people come by, they can fill up their car with gasoline. These two guys here are oil investors from the city of Phoenix, come to find out if oil's been discovered in the Navajo lands. They say, hey, John Walton, the white man, who took Wingfoot to the school and whipped him. John Walton is an Indian agent. Next time he's around, why don't you call him? Because they couldn't go out by themselves. They need the Indian agent to be an official escort into the land. Navajo Jim's quite a bit older. And they say, hey, call us. We will pay you to be our guide looking for oil out in the desert. And of course, Navajo Jim likes this idea. Okay, bye, whatever. But then Navajo Jim, take a look. He has the meishi, and he rips it up. And then he thinks, oh, damn, why did I rip that up? I need that. And he reaches over to get it, and boom! Comedy. Ha, 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 ha. If there's any comedy in this movie, it's going to come from Navajo Jim. He was a famous actor. To give you some information about the guy, I think his name was Tully. And he'd been in more than 100 films before he did Redskin. He was a stage actor first, and then in 1914, I think, he made his film debut and did 100 movies between the middle of the 1910s and 1927. Oh, and he says, oh, Wingfoot, I can't believe it. Oh, look at you. You look so different. Oh, look at you. And the whole village, notice this, the whole village comes out to see him. And uh-oh, now here's Daddy. Here's Daddy, and the medicine man has white hair now. Here's Daddy, and he's like, hi, Dad, do you remember me? And his father will not shake his hand because shaking hands is only for white people. And he says, instead, I asked you to come back to me as an Indian. And Wingfoot insists that he's prouder than ever to be an Indian. The Western clothes mean nothing. I'm proud of my race. And then the medicine man makes things very awkward by saying, hey, are you still known as the whipped one? Which is just so yada. The trouble that Wingfoot had at school, word travels, I suppose. So that's a real insult to Wingfoot. Because he's been insulted, Wingfoot insults the medicine man and the Navajo leadership in general. He says, you are the whipped ones, whipped by your old superstitions. He's not going to let his father and the medicine man insult him. He's got pride. Meanwhile, the kids are going through his bags. Would Japanese kids do this? They would never just open up someone's luggage and go through it. I don't know why these Navajo kids are doing that. Maybe there's kind of a Navajo tradition where there's no private ownership of anything. The little kid brings the trophy. And Wingfoot is a bit embarrassed about this. He was proud when he won the track award, but now he's going to show that this white man's award doesn't mean anything to him. Hey, make me a belt of this, and throws it to the guy whose job is hammering out metal. Now, Navajo Jim remains friendly. He's like, them danged Dang is a euphemism for damn. You can't say the damn little devils. Instead, he says the danged little devils. So this is a very southern country word. The danged little devils. I'm afraid they kind of mussed up your store clothes. They mussed up instead of messed up your store clothes. Wingfoot just wants to go see his grandmother. So he says, how is my grandmother? Is she still alive? And Jim's got bad news. They stuck her off by herself. So she is haba. The poor old lady's getting feeble. And Chahi says she's bewitched. So poor old lady, of course it should be P-O-O-R, but it's spelled here as P-O-R-E, just as a joke to make Navajo Jim appear to be this uneducated country guy. And instead of getting, like G-I-T-T-I-N-G, instead of and, A-N-D, you chop off the last consonant, and that makes it sound even more country. She's getting feeble instead of getting feeble. Now, bewitched means she's got evil spirits in her. There's something evil about her. And, the medicine man is not cool to say that someone is bewitched and to push them out of the village. So Jim takes Wingfoot out to where his grandmother lives now, and you can see that it is just on the edge of the village. I guess Jim is saying, well, you go on in and see her, and I'll, take care of these clothes for you. That's what I'm guessing they're saying here. And so he opens the door, and there she is. She's blind, and he's horrified to see this, that she's gotten older. She's saying, who's there? Who's there? It says, it's me, Grandma. Do you remember me? It's really sweet. Here she is feeling, oh, you're wearing Western clothes. Look at that silk suit. And she feels his face. That's so beautiful. Your father must have been glad to see you. Ha ha. He says, no, he wasn't. He doesn't like my clothes. And she says, it's only because of the white man's clothes. So I'm going to give you some better clothes. Come on over here. And she says, this is his wedding costume when he married your mother. So wear these clothes and let your father see you as himself, as a proud Navajo. And then he will take you to his heart. So the grandma means well. Let's see if her plan is going to work. So, in the early morning, many drums and many voices intoned an ancient ceremonial. This is one of the most amazing parts of the movie, and it's worth listening to. This is the newly made soundtrack, not the original, but let's listen. Remember, in silent movie theaters, you had pianos playing mostly, so that's what audiences would expect to hear. But it is nice to see all these authentic costumes and they look like the giant mushrooms. But I think that they are gourds, and inside the gourds are seeds. So this is like a percussion instrument. And this is the famous Navajo sand painting. And I have no idea what it means, but it's very gorgeous and truly authentic. So the cinematographer, along with the director of this movie, really understood aspects of Navajo and Puebloan culture and dancing and costumes. Paying attention to the fine detail. And there's the medicine man. Remember, the medicine man has that red blanket. This is not the blanket he read from, his traditional robe. Whoever wears this is the medicine man. And the medicine man, and the others come over. Your years are too many. You must give your name to another. I don't know know who this other guy is. Maybe this is the medicine man's son. This is definitely Wingfoot's father, the chief. And he says, go and get Wingfoot. Runs to the Hogan. And here's Wingfoot in the clothes that Bachan gave him. He looks pretty badass. Yay! And father, he's kind of smiling. He's impressed. Look at you, my son. The traditional greeting, right? That's a beautiful moment where he accepts his son. And the medicine man says, Chief's son, you have come back in Indian. You shall take my place as medicine man. Uh-oh, the blanket. Here comes the blanket, the ceremonial blanket. Doatin, I change your shameful name, so I give you my name. You are Chahi, the giver of good, the medicine man. But he says no. Now, this is weird. This is awkward. I bring to our people all I learned beyond the mountains from the white man, but I can no longer tie the prayer feathers to the ram's horns. What he means here is quite literally, I can't do the rituals that have been done through Navajo tradition for many years. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to bring the knowledge of the white man's medicine to the Navajo people. And father says, wait a minute, the prayer feathers bring us sturdy lambs. That's a superstition. It's not true. And so he says, well, what do you mean? When the new moon rises, I must paint the earth with colored sand? I have to do all these traditions, right? And the medicine man says, yes, or our crops will fail and the Great Spirit will send sickness. And he's saying, no. Put the blanket back upon your shoulders. He insists that he will be medicine man only if he can bring in his new ideas. I can be your medicine man only on one condition, that I bring you the fruits of the white man's learning. Now, this is a little much because this other guy, he says this, for shame! Do Atin wants to be a white man, ooh! And he's angry. No, I am a redskin. A red man I was born, a red man I will die. Wingfoot is right to be angry here, but he takes it just a little bit too far. He says, you're dying through ignorance. All these superstitions are foolish. Let me bring my white education. Moio! Uruset! Go back to the white men. Preach to them. Medicine Man is really in shaming mode. And Wingfoot drops the bomb on him. Your witchcraft killed my mother. And it is killing my grandmother. And now you want to preach this nonsense to me? Now, look at Medicine Man. He's like, stop. And he just walks away. He's so angry about this. And look at his father's face, like, how do you dare say these things? And his father says, okay, the hell with it. No, you're not going to be Medicine Man. And he kicks sand onto the Medicine Man's blanket, saying, you are not my son. You are no longer a Navajo. Go. And this is tremendous shame for Wingfoot. In Japanese culture, the greatest shame a Japanese can experience is being soto, going outside. If you are pushed out by your people, you're not one of them anymore. So you become a person without a cultural identity. And this scene is just unbelievable. Every Navajo comes through and they disrespect Wingfoot. They kick sand on him and he has to stand there and take it. It's so shitsure for him. And they cancel the sand painting. I guess the sand painting was in Wingfoot's honor. This whole ceremony was probably welcoming him back sort of ceremony, and so they're canceling it now. And here's the medicine man looking at him saying, "Woe to the white man's school. They sent your body home and they kept your heart." Oh, so more shaming and more ugly, mean looks. And poor Wingfoot, here's the ultimate symbol. Here's a horse. Get the hell out of here. I'm turning my back on you now. And this shot right here is so impressive, the way that it is framed. Take a look at it. You got the blue sky at the top. It's like a photograph. As I was researching this movie, I actually found a photograph that I want to share with you. I did a Google search on Canyon de Chelly, and I found this photograph here of exactly the same spot where Wingfoot is repudiated by the Navajo people. And what does it say in the bottom? Let's take a look. It's remarkably good quality photograph. It's a photo taken around 1900, so even before this movie was shot. And it's got 7 Navajo and some horses and dogs. And it says, copyright 1904 by Edward S. Curtis. Edward Curtis was a photographer who specialized. He got research money, a grant from, I think it was J.P. Morgan, gave him research money to go out and take thousands of photographs of the American Indians. And he spent a great deal of time in Canyon de Chelly in the early 1900s and got some wonderful photos. Here's another one. Look at this. All right, back to the story. This is bad news for old Wingfoot. And so we see, in exile, many weeks later, in the desert foothills, here he is. He's cooking some food. He's got his horse. You can see that he's got his rifle. And here comes Navajo Jim. Navajo Jim is like his only friend left. The only person who still is kind to Wingfoot. And Navajo Jim's got a sack of stuff, and from the sack he's bringing canned goods, and he says, "No, I don't need any canned goods. That's okay. Don't worry about it. No, I've got everything I need. I got my rifle. I'll take this bag, but I don't need any of your supplies." And so it's a little bit awkward. And he says, "Oh, I forgot." I love that. "I got this letter for you. It come in last week's mail. I mighty near forgot it." "Okay, see you, bye." Here's the letter, and I know that it's a little bit difficult to read. 50 miles of desert and our guarded mountain lie between us. And even if you reached me, I fear my people would kill you. Someday, I will try to come to you. Until then, always and only, your Corn Blossom. So it makes you wonder, how far away is Coma Pueblo? How far away is it really? So I went to Google Maps. I want to say, how far away is all of this? Well, remember that the Navajo Nation and the Pueblo people are in this area. Arizona was a state in 1912, I guess New Mexico around the same time. And the Navajo people were here up in Canyon de Chelly. And there was also Navajo reservation over here in western area of New Mexico. And closer to the center was Sky City, Coma Pueblo, where Corn Blossom lived. I wanted to find out, how long would it take to go from here to here? If Wingfoot really wants to see Corn Blossom, how far does he have to go? She says it's 50 miles. I think that it's actually a lot more than that. Okay, this one gives us a little bit of help. Navajo Nation was actually very wide, and Canyon de Chelly, which is where Wingfoot lives with his fellow Navajo in the village, they're quite a distance from the New Mexico-Arizona border, but it's all Navajo Nation. Okay, this one puts it in perspective a little bit. This is Shinley, where the boarding school was, and it's up in the Navajo Nation. You got to go all the way across the New Mexican-Arizona border, all the way into Coma Pueblo here. And this says it's Navajo Indian Reservation too. So it is a little bit confusing trying to reconstruct. But here it is. Let's take a drive. Of course, they didn't have state highways back in 1927, but if we were to do that drive today, Wingfoot would have to go 181 miles all the way into this area. A little bit better map. Here we go. Here's a desert out where Wingfoot is, and he's still well in the Navajo Nation, but he's just out in the desert. He can't be near the people of the village. This is how long it would take him to drive to Coma Pueblo. It's 200 kilometers, actually. It would take about 3 hours to drive it today. So I imagine it would take a lot longer than that to go on horseback. I think a major point of this is that Corn Blossom is clear. She's saying, Wingfoot, I will come and get you. Do not come here to get me, because they're going to kill you. But do you think that Wingfoot is afraid? Wingfoot is not afraid. He will go by horseback. And now he doesn't want to make any noise. He's going to walk the rest of the way up. So here he is. He's trying as hard as he can to get to this place. As he is approaching Sky City, he spots a cistern where the ladies of the Pueblo village are scooping up water and carrying it back in pots. And this is just a gorgeous sequence. Look at the fine detail on the pots and the Pueblo people's clothes. And he sees Corn Blossom. And this is the only time in the movie he smiles. So that's really nice, I think. And he's like, there's the woman I love. But she's feeling, she's also kawaiso because she can't be with her love. Remember before I told you I was looking at the photographs that Edward Curtis had done around 1900, and I found one that looks very similar to this. Take a look. This is an Edward Curtis photo from around the same time of Pueblo women dipping water, and here it is in sepia tone, where you can see a little bit more detail in colors. See a difference there? You know, you look at these Edward Curtis photos of the time period, and you think the director and the cinematographer of Redskin absolutely had seen these photos before, and they tried to recreate the images as best they could, because those photos, I don't think that the photos were famous and that they were trying to recapture, the fame of the photographs. I think that they were available to them as they were researching the locations to do the filming for Redskin. So, all right. So what happens here? It's like, oh my God, I'm so glad to see you. What does it mean? What have they done to you? Well, remember, she was looking all kawaiso and, like she's lost her will to live. And she says, it doesn't matter what they did to me, but they're gonna make me marry Jim. Uh-oh, little boy's watching. I'm gonna take you away with me now. No one has seen me. Ha ha ha. Actually, the little boy has seen Corn Blossom. How does the little boy know that Corn Blossom is with a Navajo man? Well, there are 2 points I can think of. Either he recognizes the clothing that a Navajo would wear, or it's just really weird to see a man down there, because men don't go down in this area searching for water. Only women go down there. Either way, it's very strange, and it's good gossip. Oh, like that, meaning, an Indian man, a brave. And so all the people run out. We got to get this guy. You Navajo dog, stealing a Pueblo woman. And he says, I cannot steal what is mine and no other man's. That is just so cool. I can't steal what is mine, so don't tell me that I'm stealing somebody. And of course, here comes the ugly, drunk, mean Pueblo Jim. Doatin, the whipped one, the coward. That's just not necessary. That was 10 years ago, dude. So shut up. The coyote makes brave talk among his brothers. Meaning, you are pretending to be brave because you have all your friends around you to help you beat me up. So first, there's a big punch. Wow, Wingfoot lays him down with one punch. That's pretty cool. Didn't expect that. That's a really cool scene, isn't it? Just wow, running down like that. These were not created for the movie. This is what Sky City looks like in Coma Pueblo. Dive for the pool. I haven't been able to find on any maps where that pool was, but I'm going to keep looking. I'm sure it can't be too far away. I can't believe that it was deep enough for him to survive that jump. At last, returning to his only refuge, the wilderness of burning sand and thirst-stricken mountains. These are very powerful words. They evoke the image of dying of thirst. It's so hot. There's no shade. There's no water. And so we see this great scene. Look, this is gorgeous. This is just gorgeous. It reminds me a little bit of the final shot of D.W. Griffith's short, A Corner in Wheat. And he's like losing his mind. If I dig here, maybe I can find water. But I can't. And so here he is. He's dying of thirst. And just as he passes out, he rolls down the hill. There's water. He can drink. But it tastes funny. Wait a minute, something's wrong here. Aha! Oil! Oh my God! God! Why do you give me this gift of oil now? My life is so miserable. It seems to me that discovering oil never comes at a bad time. Discovering oil is a good thing, a great moment. But Wingfoot is right. Wingfoot is without a home. He's without his land. He's without a wife to share it with. So yes, he does have reason to complain. And so the next thing you know, here comes the Indian scout, John Walton, the whipping man, and he's bringing some government guy out here to take a look. Commissioner, this is the valley I spoke of. It looks like there's oil out here. And he comes out, and then, whoa, here he is, the Navajo man. And the commissioner says, Yate, like konnichiwa. It's the only Navajo this white man knows, I'm sure. And he says, how do you do? Oh, you speak English? Yes, I have been educated. This is hontoni hiniku. Yeah, it wasn't a good experience for me, but I have been educated. And he goes, oh, well, our system of Indian education has apparently been a success with you. And he says, has it? And that is really Hiniku. It's like definite irony in his tone. John Walton is going, awkward, awkward. And then suddenly, oh, an avalanche, look. A bunch of rocks are coming down the side of the hill, and a pine tree is there, and the pine tree is snapped, whack, by the avalanche. And this is a metaphor. The Indian cannot stop civilization any more than that pine could stop the avalanche. And see, the pine tree has been destroyed. And he says, but see what's happened to the pine. Yeah, the white man brings civilization, but it kills the Indian and the culture. And finally, I seem to remember you. What's your name? And he says, you ought to know my name. You named me Do-Atin, the whipped one. And I'd like to speak to you, alone. And we're afraid, oh my God, he's going to kick his ass, right? You pinned a name to me that I've never been able to live down. And that's exactly what Ms. Stearns said. You've given him a name that will follow him for the rest of his life. And as for your education, what has it made me? I'm neither Indian nor white. I'm just Redskin. And that's truth, 100%. He doesn't fit in either world. I wonder if you're man enough to whip me now. Perhaps I can give you something to regret. So it looks like Wingfoot wants a fight. But look at John Walton. He breathes in. He's tall. He's strong. But then we see very slowly he exhales. And he softens. And he just says, Wingfoot, I have regretted that whipping more than you will ever know. And so that's really very well acted. You know, you think that, silent movies, yeah, they couldn't act back then. They could act. You know, it's really well done. And then that's the end of the scene. Okay, we're going to have to pick up more a little bit later.